We will now be discussing about anticestodal drugs. Tapeworm infections are treated with anticestodal drugs, which can act as either teniafuge or teniacides. These are drugs that are effective against cestodes or tapeworms and come in two varieties, teniafuge and teniacides. Teniafuge paralyzes the tapeworm and are used with purgative to aid ejection. For example, earlier natural organic anticestodal medicines such as Arecoline. Teniacides or synthetic organic compounds, for example, cause the tapeworm to die in situ. Chemicals like Bunamidine are examples of such chemicals. The classification of anticestodal drugs consists of natural compounds, inorganic compounds, and synthetic organic compounds. Natural anticestodal compounds are mostly of plant origin. Pumpkin seeds, mints, have anticestodal action and are still used in some countries. Its active principle is cucurbitine. Male fern's active principle is felicinic acid and causes paralysis of tapeworm. Kamala can be found in glands and hairs covering fruits of a plant, Meleotus philippinensis, found in Philippines, India, and China. Previously, it was the preferred treatment for cat tapeworms such as Dipylidium caninum and Tinea tiniformis. Nicotine is obtained from Nicotiana tabacum, commonly given with copper sulfate for removal of ruminant tapeworms and roundworms. Drug causes persistent paralysis of worm. In Arecoline Hydrobromide, purgation is required to remove the parasite within 2 hours because it causes temporary paralysis of the worm by acting as cholinergic agonist. Arecoline acetersol is used in dogs and cats as anticestodal agent against tinea and dipylidium and as a laxative. It is administered orally as tablet which are hydrolyzed in stomach, releasing the active moiety arecoline. Arecoline carboxyphenylstilbonate is also used in dogs and cats as anticestodal agent against tinea and dipylidium. Next classification is synthetic organic compounds, and these are Bunamidine, Niclosamide, Dichlorphen, Hexachlorophene, Praziquantel, bithianol, Uredophos, nitroscanate, Praziquantel, and Benzimidazole. Bunamidine hydrochloride has a good activity against all tapeworms of dog and cat, including Echinococcus granulosus. It disrupts the parasite tegument, resulting in a slower rate of glucose uptake and the parasite's eventual death. The dead worms are digested in the host gut. The drug does not cause purgation. This drug is also safe in pregnancy. Bunamidine hydroxynaphthoate is safely used against Monasia species in sheep and goats, even in pregnancy. Niclosamide is commonly used to treat tapeworm infections, primarily tinea in dogs, cats, and humans, but it has poor efficacy against Echinococcus and has variable efficacy against Dipylidium. It is used to treat ruminant Meniesia and thysosome infections, as well as tapeworm infections in lab animals, monkeys, and reptiles. It also has activity against intestinal flukes such as Paramphystomum in ruminants. Niclosamide's mode of action is the worm's glucose uptake inhibited, uncoupling of oxidative phosphorylation in the mitochondria, resulting in a Krebs cycle blockage. lactic acid accumulation in the worm, and interference with the worm's anaerobic ATP generation. The tapeworm dies and is digested in the gut as a result. The drug's total action may also be related to overstimulation of mitochondrial ATPase activity. Niclosamide's administration and dosage. In dogs and cats, it is administered orally as tablets at 100 to 150 milligrams per kilogram. In cattle, it is administered as a drench at 50 milligrams per kilogram. In sheep and goats, it is administered at 100 milligrams per kilogram as drench. Overnight fasting of animal is required in all animals before dosing. Niclosamide has a wide margin of safety. It is safe at all stages of pregnancy and in debilitated animals. Because of these advantages, it is extensively used as stimicide both in human and animals. Dichlorphen is the most pharmacological property similar to niclosamide. It is mainly used as a narrow-spectrum tinicide in veterinary medicine. It is effective against tinea and diploidium in dogs and cats, and ineffective against echinococcus, thus not a choice of drug for tapeworm. It has limited efficacy against meningia in sheep. In addition, it has bactericidal and antifungal activity. Hexachlorophene is primarily used as an anti-trematodal drug to treat sheep and cattle with liver fluke infections. These drugs' main anticestodal use is for the control of chicken tapeworm, specifically Rhylatina cysticilius. This is toxic to dogs and it acts by uncoupling of oxidative phosphorylation. Praziquantel is an anticestodal for ruminants. It is highly effective against meningia in both sheep and cattle and against thysanesia cardi in sheep. 90% efficacy in sheep and cattle against mature and immature rumen flukes. Bithianol has anthelmintic as well as bacteriostatic and antifungal activities. It is used for treatment of tapeworm infections, especially tinea in dogs, cats, and poultry. The drug is also used in treatment of tapeworm and rumen fluke infections of sheep, goats, and cattle. The drug is also effective against lung fluke in dogs and cats. Bithianol sulfoxide has the same anticestodal efficacy in dogs and sheep as bithianol at a lower therapeutic dose, as well as excellent efficacy against sheep and cattle liver flukes. Uredophos, an organophosphate compound introduced as a broad-spectrum anthelmintic in dogs and cats at a dose rate of 50 mg per kilogram for use against both nematodes, ascaris and hookworms, and cystodes. It is 100% efficient against Diploidium caninum that is resistant to most other anticestodal drugs except Praziquantel. It is an anticholinesterase agent. This drug is banned for clinical use owing to its adverse reactions and even death. Nitroscanate is active against tapeworms and roundworms of dogs but not suitable for cats. It is safe and can be given to pregnant and lactating bitches and pups. Praziquantel is a new broad-spectrum anthelmintic that works against all schistosomes species that are pathogenic to humans, as well as a wide range of adult and larval cystodes from humans and animals, including cysticercosis. Praziquantel's mode of action is rapidly absorbed by susceptible worms and acts by increasing the permeability of the nematode cell membrane to calcium. This results in intracellular calcium leakage through the membrane, causing musculature contraction and eventually worm paralysis and death. Praziquantel also changes the parasite so that it is vulnerable to the host's normal immune response. Praziquantel is administered orally or IM. In dogs and cats, it is administered at 5 mg per kilogram by any route. It has a wide margin of safety and no teratogenicity or embryotoxicity orally. The anticestodal benzimidazoles are mebendazole and fenbendazole for tinniasis in dog and cats. These are ineffective against Diplegium caninum. The following anticestodal drugs are found to be effective and safe against equine tapeworms. These are mebendazole, Niclosamide, Dichlorphen, bithionol, and pyrantel palmate. Next classification is inorganic compounds, and this consists of tin compounds and lead arsenate. Tin compounds are metallic tin with its oxide or chloride of di-N-butyl tin dilaurate. It is very effective against tapeworms in dogs such as T. solium, T. saginata, and Diplegium divinia in poultry, and widely used as an anticestodal in humans and domestic animals. Tin particles deposit a thin layer of coating on the tapeworm's cuticle, making the strobili vulnerable to digestion. Its disadvantage is it needs daily administration for several days and produces side effects and toxic effects. Lead arsenate is highly effective against Meniesia and was in use worldwide for the treatment of Meniesia infection in lamb, calves, and kids. It has low margin of safety and should never be used in poultry. Lead arsenate's mode of action is in the gut. The drug is hydrolyzed into lead and arsenic. The lead is transformed to lead oxide and the pentavalent arsenic to more toxic trivalent arsenic. No fasting needed.